Welcome to the Putback here on SNY.TV. I'm Ian Begley, SNY's NBA insider, and we are here, as we always are, to break things down, Knicks across the NBA here in the middle of the postseason. And I have two great guests with me today to break it all down. I've got Jared Dubin. Jared covers the whole NFL for CBS, and he also covers the entire playoffs for not last night in basketball. Let me get it right.
No, that's right.
Yes, last night in basketball.com. And Jared, very insightful about the whole league, very passionate about the Knicks. So a great follow. Someone else is passionate about the Knicks. My friend and yours, State From Harlem. State has the State of the New York Knicks podcast. He's been doing it for about 8 years, and he likes to stir it up on Twitter, which I appreciate. His takes often garner reactions. His facial expressions often garner reactions, and we like to have fun. So I'm happy to have State here. But fellas, as always, we are going to start off with the baseline. Knicks winning games 3 and 4 in this series in Detroit. First time since 1999 that they won 2 consecutive road games in a series, and this was hostile territory. And the Knicks coming off of game 2 where nothing looked good. So they really bounced back here. To me, obviously, it starts with Jalen Brunson in the clutch, coming back in the fourth quarter off that injury and dominating the game. 15 points from that point on, helping the Knicks rally from an 11-point deficit. There were many other factors that keyed into that win, but it starts with Brunson. As far as the injury for Brunson, we didn't hear much about it after the game. Obviously, he had hurt that ankle in the past. And the Knicks, I don't think they're doing much today. So he's probably taking it easy. We'll know more 5 p.m. today when the injury report comes out. But didn't strike me as anything that would keep Brunson from the floor Tuesday in Game 5. And, Jared, I want to start with you. Just Brunson, the idea that he came back when he did what he did. You've been watching this team for a while. What did you make of his play late?
It's like you can't help but cackle at what this guy does. It's incredible. At least 12 points, I think, in all 4 fourth quarters in the series so far. Leading the playoffs with 53 fourth quarter points. First guy with 30-plus points and 7-plus assists in each of the first 4 games of the playoffs. There's not much you can say about him that you don't get from the feeling of watching him at this point. For me personally, I've been alive since 1987, so I've been waiting my entire life for a point guard like this. It's incredible.
So Jared, I don't think Mark Jackson you probably weren't cognizant of, so it has been a long wait for you. But at State, I think you issued an apology?
Yes, I did.
Tell me about that.
I just felt like Jalen Brunson, the ball hogging comments that a lot of Knicks fans were saying and me myself was saying was because, hey, look, make your teammates better. That's what a point guard job is to do. But this guy has come here, and I knew he was good from the Phoenix Suns and Dallas series where Devin Booker called him an obscenity name. Obscenity. Y'all know Knicks spaces. I mess up a lot of words, but called him a name. And Jalen Brunson proceeded to hunt him down for the next about 10 to 12 possessions and really score on him and showed me like, oh, he don't back down from nothing. And I'm going to be honest, like my disrespect was very loud, but my respect be loud as well. When you score 12 points, 14 points, 12 points, 15 points, he's the first player since 1997 and 1998 to score 12-plus points in the fourth quarter of 4 straight playoff games. And he's 6'1". This guy is the best small guard since Allen Iverson, bar none. You got Isaiah Thomas. Shouts to Isaiah Thomas for the Boston Celtics. He was a small guard. Small guards to me is guys that's under 6'1". Jalen Brunson, he's the best small guard since Allen Iverson. I call him Jalen Iverson for that reason. He's clutch. I have nothing bad to say about him. He was great during the fourth quarter. When he got hurt, I said, hey, I thought we was done, but he came back in. Man, it's made of vibranium, man. I have nothing bad to say about him, man. I love Brunson, man. I love Bron. I waited 20 years for him, man. I apologize for any disrespect I had for Jalen Brunson. I apologize.
Listen, when they signed him, there was a lot of disrespect around the league. I mean, other teams were scratching their heads. Even some people within the Knicks were scratching their heads about the contract offer. And this was, to me, it was an all-in move by Leon Rose. If it worked, it was going to be good. If it didn't work, I think that the Leon Rose era would have ended at some point. But here we are. Knicks in territory that they've been in consistently with Brunson, but here they are on the precipice of closing out a series, Game 5 at home. That hasn't happened in a while either. But I want to know, Jared, for you, what did you see as the biggest difference when you looked at Game 2 and then looked at what the Knicks did in 3 and 4? What did you see as an adjustment there that worked or didn't work?
I think it has to just be the overall involvement in the offense from anybody other than Brunson. Like State said, in that Game 2, it was a lot of Jalen Brunson going ISO 1-on-5 against the entire team. Mm-hmm. When you saw Karl-Anthony Towns let fly with those 2 trailer threes at the start of Game 3, that was when you knew the offense was going to be completely different. And that has changed things so much through the next 2 games of the series. He took 5 threes in Games 1 and 2 combined. He made 5 threes in Game 3, and he made another 4 of them in Game 4. First time in his career that he's made 4+ threes in back-to-back playoff games. He only took 11 shots in Game 2. He's made 10 shots in each of Games 3 and 4. The way that he is able to open up the floor, like the guy called himself the best shooting big man in the history of the NBA, and he wasn't entirely wrong. Like, he's an elite shooter from everywhere on the floor. He's an elite shooter from 3. This is a guy that should be taking 6-8 threes a game instead of 4-5 threes a game. And when he gets them up, when he spaces the floor like that, it just opens things up for everybody else. And the way he was able to do that was by getting Tobias Harris in foul trouble in both games, which allowed him to be guarded by Jalen Duren more often and get off more of those threes. And that just was so key for everybody. Yeah,
it's remarkable, that matchup. Duren, Karl-Anthony Towns, it's something that the Knicks can take advantage of on the offensive end, and they did. And obviously this thing came down to the last possession, and we all know what happened there. I'm just curious, State, wherever you were watching the game from, what were you doing on that last possession? How were you reacting to what you saw?
Yo, I was in my family's liquor store, Fred's Wines and Liquor. Shout out to my cousin. We was watching the game together. And when OG and Anunoby got the ball, shouts to Paper Man. Man, I love you, Paper Man. You keep doing what you're doing. Just be aggressive. But when OG got the ball, I know OG is a high IQ basketball player. When he passed it out and Cat got the ball, I was thinking to myself, what is he going to do? When he did the step back in, I stood up. I said, you know what? He's a Knick now. Mm-hmm. That shot was so clutch. And the fact that Jalen Brunson even got us to that point, and Mikal Bridges, I know he shot bad. He was shooting civil rights. Look, I know he shot, OG shot, but they played defense that night. But that shot, I said, yo, he's a Knick now. And that was great, man. That was a gutsy shot, man. That was a gutsy shot. It's been a tough series all along. That's on Cat. That's on Cat. And kudos to Thibodeau. And Ian, you know my relationship with Tibbs. Hey, kudos to him. He made a lot of adjustments that I've noticed from Game 2 to Game 3. Mainly the biggest adjustment, Karl-Anthony Towns meeting Cade Cunningham at the level instead of all the way falling back and the dropping back coverage. Love it, Thibodeau. Keep doing that, bro.
Yeah, look, I mean, I talked about it before the series, how high the stakes were for Tom Thibodeau, lose this series. And there was going to be a lot of hard conversations about the future of the franchise, including the head coaching position. But, here they are, 3-1 and winning in a tough environment. I mean, I was out there in Detroit, and not only the crowd was very loud. It was a great atmosphere, but also Detroit just kind of threw so many different things at them. It wasn't like the Knicks ever had a comfortable double-digit lead where they were coasting to a win. Both of these games were, knockdown, drag out, going into the final possessions. And the Knicks showed me, at least, a kind of a fortitude, an ability to stick together and deal with adversity that you didn't always see in the regular season. And that's why I had questions about the team coming into this series. But really, they checked off a ton of boxes, at least for me personally, the way they handled this difficult situation in Detroit. And Jared, just to circle back on Karl-Anthony Towns just for a second here, do you think that, I'm not going to look ahead yet, but do you think that the way they went to him early game 4, getting him the ball in the post on Tobias Harris, it seems like an obvious thing to do, but it's not. If the opposition, is trying to stop it, it's not that easy. But what did you see early there when he was getting the ball, deep paint touches, and they were working out of that?
Yeah, they did a lot more things rather than just planting him on that side and asking him to back Tobias down. They got him some cross screens, some down screens to get him better position. In the first couple games of the series, when he was getting those post-ups or those mid-post ISOs, they were coming closer to the three-point line than to the paint. When you get him a down screen, it just allows him to get better position. And I think that's what put him in position to get Tobias in foul trouble. When you're closer to the basket, it's easier to score. The other guy on defense is going to have to do more to try to stop you from scoring. And that just worked really, really well.
Yeah, they switched it up because game 3, he was getting the ball behind the arc, and then they went down low in game 4. And also, we're talking about Towns a lot, but just getting into the general tone of this series, the physicality of this series, it strikes me. I like that the refs are letting everything go. I know there's been controversy on both sides, but State, the way this thing has been officiated and the style of play that's emerged from it, what are your thoughts on the style of this series?
Love it. I want to give kudos to, shout outs to my guy Paper Man as I drink from this cup. It's good water. Shout out to my guy Paper Man. I want to thank the refs for reffing a good series so far. Me personally, I love last game. Muck it up. Get dirty. That's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to get dirty. And when I'm watching Karl-Anthony Towns, he's mucking it up. You see a picture, he got 2 people on his shoulders. 2 people. You got another guy, OG Anunoby, he's mucking it up. I love the physical play in this series and the ethical basketball. I'm gonna be honest with you, Ian Begley and my guy, Kay Cunningham is special. And OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges is giving him his NBA moment because he's getting hard-earned buckets. But I love the physicality of this series. But I love the refs. I love what they're doing. Let them play. Let them go hoop. I don't want Jalen Brunson to foul bait or Detroit fans to say he's foul baiting. I want them to say he's playing ethical basketball. I think Brunson plays good basketball. And, he uses his skill to his advantage. I have no problems with the NBA refs. Shouts to the NBA refs. I have no problems with you guys, man. Kudos to y'all.
And State, you got into the defense against Cade Cunningham. It's been OG Anunoby, it's been Mikal Bridges, Josh Hart at times, just a team effort. Jared, I'm sure you watched the Pistons a lot during the regular season. And obviously Cade had a lot of success against the Knicks regular season. Pistons going 3-1 against them. Is it just simply OG Anunoby doing a fantastic job one-on-one against Cade, or Mikal Bridges doing a fantastic job when he's matched up against Cade and containing him? Or are you seeing something else there? What are you seeing?
A lot of it is definitely just that. Like, there was a possession late in the game where 3 times Dennis Schroeder tried to screen OG to get him a switch onto Jalen Brunson. And all 3 times OG, one of the times he literally tossed Schroeder to the ground. And then Schroeder got back up and tried to set another screen, and OG just sort of elbowed him out of the way. That kind of stuff, you just can't screen the guy. He's been ridiculous on defense all series. Even in the games where Cade has gotten his offense going, it's been courtesy of really, really tough shots. And I thought through the first couple games of the series, Mikal's length didn't really give Cade that much of a problem. In game 4 in particular, there was a point where for a 3 or 4 minute stretch, Mikal was the guy on Cade instead of OG, who's been the primary matchup all series, because that's how much he was leveraging his length to be able to force Cade into tough shots. Mikal's defense in Game 4 in general, not even just the stretch that he was on Cade, was unbelievable. Like one of the best defensive games that you've seen from him. And this is a guy who's played a lot of really, really good defensive games, especially in the playoffs throughout his career. I thought it was one of the best that we've seen from him all season, one of the best that we've seen from him in any of his playoff games. And I was getting ready to hear after the game people asking Tibbs about Mikal's struggles shooting when he was 0 for 4 from 3, and just getting ready to hear Tibbs say, like, don't have to shoot well to play well, because he played an unbelievable game before hitting those 2 threes, which were really the start of the run in the fourth quarter. And the defense before that was one of the things that was helping keep them in the game.
Yeah, well, those 2 threes, just monster 3-pointers. Afterward, Bridges was crediting his teammates for keeping him in there, for keeping his spirits high, and for challenging him, Campaign in particular, challenging him to continue to shoot the ball. And it's just a very, very big moment for a guy who really has been up and down this year, and you could say underwhelming at times this year. This was significant for him. I'm just wondering, State, for you, what does that game do in terms of how you view Mikal Bridges, or what does the 2 games do in terms of how you view Mikal?
Mikal, it's been tough. He was traded for 5 first-round picks, half a decade of first-round picks, and whenever you're traded for more first-round picks than Carmelo Anthony, I want to get a certain amount of production from you. At the same time, he's been playing great defense this series. Even looking at the numbers with Mikal Bridges, Tobias Harris, he's shooting 40% versus Mikal. Malik Beasley, he's shooting 20% from the field versus Mikal, right? Malik Beasley is also shooting 14.3% versus Mikal, right? Tim Hardaway Jr., he's shooting 25% versus Mikal from the 3-point range, right? What Mikal is doing during this series is making me understand that maybe every guy can't be a star. Maybe the guy can be a star in the role of you winning a championship. And I love what Mikal is doing this series. But I just want him to score more, because the Celtics series that we got coming up next, and I think we're going to close them out on Tuesday, God willing, I need Mikal to score a little more. But I love what he's doing. Man. The matchups, he's been locking everybody up. We know what OG and Nobi's doing to Cade Cunningham. So, Cade Cunningham is shooting 36.4% versus OG and Anunoby. So, I'm satisfied.
Yeah, those 2 guys, Anunoby and Bridges, showing why the Knicks invested what they did in having those guys on this team this year. Now we're going to segue, guys, to the What We Learned section of the show. What We Learned, presented by Binghamton University. Binghamton University was named the top school in the SUNY system, according to recent rankings from the Wall Street Journal and Forbes. Visit binghamton.edu for more. We got into this a little bit earlier, but Karl Anthony Towns, what he did in the big moments in Game 4 and how he's responded to the physicality in this series. He had a label of being soft and kind of shrinking a little bit in the postseason. And that was kind of carried over from Game 2. There was some talk of that cat being here. But, what he did in 3 and 4, you mentioned it, State. This was his Nick moment. But he was just fantastic. The shot making and in really, really tough situations, high leverage situations, taking and making those shots. This was a Karl Anthony Towns that maybe you didn't see often in big spots in Minnesota, but here he is, first year in New York, delivering. And it's interesting because when the Knicks made that trade, talking to people around the league, some people said, like, how is he going to handle New York? Like, he's going to be under the microscope, and it's going to be, back pages and pressure. And how is he going to handle struggling? How is he going to handle big moments? And he's doing that very well right now. He's showing you how well he can handle it. And Jared, you've watched him all year. Are you surprised by what you've seen last couple games here?
I don't know about surprised. I think in game 2, he sort of earned the reputation that people had for him throughout his career in Minnesota. Like, we saw that way too often when he was with the Timberwolves, where he would sort of disappear from the offense for a stretch for a guy who's that talented, who should never disappear from any offense. And, part of it was on Tibbs not getting him more involved. Part of it was on Brunson not getting him more involved. When you're the point guard and you have that kind of threat, you got to be able to get that dude more involved. But part of it was just on Towns. He wasn't assertive enough. He wasn't aggressive enough. And when you disappear from the offense like that, you're hurting the team. And I think in the first 2 games of the series, the defense in the first 3 quarters of game 1 was not good. The defense in the fourth quarter of game 1, when they made that massive comeback, was some of the best defense that you saw him play all year. I think most of the team in game 2 was not good enough defensively. I think in these last 2 games, Towns getting going early offensively has sort of propelled him into the proceedings more often. And I think it's raised his level of play on both sides. I don't know if I'm surprised by it necessarily, but it's just really good to see him bounce back from the adversity that was somewhat self-inflicted in game 2, but also somewhat sort of imposed on him by other factors within the team. But seeing that kind of bounce back from him, we saw it a little bit last year with Minnesota too, when they had that massive comeback in Denver. He was part of that. His defense in that Denver series was the kind that we saw, down the stretch of game 1 and then in some parts in games 3 and 4. So like I said, just great to see that from a player who is so talented and a guy who should be consistently one of the best centers in the league. And the consistency is what people didn't see from him often enough throughout a lot of his career. And when he has games like this that you saw in game 3 and game 4, it's like, thank you. That's what we want to see from you all the time.
Mm-hmm. Jared Dubin last night in basketball.com also covers the NFL for CBS.com. And it was a tough weekend for the mock drafts. But Jared, I don't even know if this is true, but I think you did have Shador going in the 5th round. So credit to you and your prescient mock draft. But the mocks were getting crushed this weekend. Anyway, Tom Thibodeau, State, when I see sometimes when you have your signature poses, when you're deep in thought on Twitter, you're posting your pictures, which I love. Sometimes I just think that you're contemplating the future of Tom Thibodeau in New York, and you're deep in thought. And I want to know, after what we've seen and we saw this weekend, Tom Thibodeau, where are you on him?
Why you? You put me.
It's my favorite part of Twitter.
Oh man, yo, you put me on the spot here. I would not lie, man. He's done a masterful job in the playoffs of adjusting, man. That's all I wanted from him. He's a walking Hall of Famer. I have nothing but respect for Thomas Thibodeau. My beef with Thomas Thibodeau is probably emotional, being just emotional Knick fan who I wanted certain kids that was on the Knicks team to prosper, but I didn't understand the moment that the Knicks was in and the time that the Knicks was in. This was the first time that the Knicks got 50 wins in back-to-back seasons since 1994, 1995. And I think I do a disservice when I just don't respect the coach. I respect what he's done and actually adapting and adjusting in the playoffs. I have nothing bad to say about him. When we go into the second round series, if he loses that series, I understand if the Knicks keep him. I just don't have nothing bad to say about him. Walking Hall of Famer, 200-plus wins with the New York Knicks. Past Pat Riley and wins for the New York Knicks as a head coach. I just want to win a championship. I think that's the most important thing, regardless of my feelings about the coach. And he's doing a great job so far in the playoffs. I will admit that. He's changed it up. He got Karl-Anthony Towns, me, and Kay Cunningham at the level. He's putting out the Mitchell Robinson and Karl-Anthony Towns double lineup. And the main adjustment that I love, oh, my God, he got Josh Hart on ball in the first quarter. I don't know if nobody else recognizes this, but I do. That Josh Hart is basically running point in the first quarter. He's getting Karl-Anthony Towns in the above three, the above break three-pointers attempts, and I love the fact that Jalen Brunson is being a decoy. I love what Tibbs is doing. I have nothing bad to say about him. I don't want to do that, man. It's good vibes. It's nice outside of New York, Ian. It's nice. It's sunny outside, man. It's sunny, man. I'm good.
Jared, the coaching in this series, what have you seen that stood out to you?
Yeah, one of the things that I said coming into the series was that the way the Pistons would win is if the Knicks didn't make adjustments when the Pistons gave them issues. And I think, like State said, making adjustments has been arguably the key to the series, getting Towns more involved offensively, doing more with Brunson off the ball offensively. Brunson in the first quarter, I thought, even when he's had bigger scoring quarters throughout the series, and he only went 3 for 7 from the field in that first quarter yesterday, that was the best offensive process we've seen from him in this series so far. 7.6 assists, no turnovers in that first quarter. He was getting to his spots, and when he got to that spot, making the right play every single time. And I think part of that had to do with they weren't just asking him to go one-on-one and switches the entire time. They were getting him off the ball a little more, getting him in handoffs, and giving him advantages to then exploit. And that's a little adjustment from Tibbs too. Getting Towns out there higher on the ball screens instead of just letting Cade walk into shots. Getting in stretches Mikal on Cade to give him a little bit of a different look offensively. That's been a little bit of an adjustment instead of having one look on him the entire game. Like, I think we're going to learn more about the adjustment capacity when they get into the next series, which you would think is going to come given that both teams are up 3-1. But the one thing I was concerned about in this series in terms of the Knicks making it harder on themselves than they have to was being too stubborn and not willing to make adjustments. And credit to Tibbs, after that game too, they have made the adjustments that I was concerned that they might not make.
And, it's interesting. Last year, the Philly series, Jalen Brunson had a tough time early on. He eventually figured it out and did what he did. And then he himself said the morning of Game 3, the Knicks had a shoot-around, and the media on the road covers the shoot-around. So we talked to Brunson for a little bit after shoot-around. He said, look, I need to get off the ball more. I need to get off the ball. I need to communicate on defense, but I took some bad shots, and there were possessions in Game 2 where I needed to get off the ball. And so for him to, recognize that and then course correct in the middle of a series, and in Game 3 and 4, I thought he did just that. I mean, the shot distribution, the assists from him, a very good floor game. So for him to be able to figure things out and have that kind of awareness to take in whatever kind of criticism that he has internally for himself or he's taken from his coaches or his teammates, and then to put that out on the floor, I think I don't want to say it's rare. It's a rare quality for elite players in the league, but I've seen some other players where they're so great at what they do, and any kind of suggestion of a tweak to this or that, maybe it was met with an agreement verbally, but you didn't see it on the floor. But Jalen Brunson, you see it on the floor, and to me, that's impressive. And State, I want to get back to you, but before we hit a basketball topic, I want to ask you, man, Fred's Wines and Liquor, 55 Malcolm X Boulevard. It's been around since the early 70s. I mean, talk to me about that for a second. That's your family liquor store, I should say.
Well, shouts to my father, Sylvester Mensah, passed away. And shouts to you, Ian, and CP, and all the Knicks management, all of you guys who showed me amount of love when my father passed away. My grandfather came here from Ghana, Accra, Ghana, as an immigrant. And, he made his way, bought a property on 14th and Lenox in Harlem. And we've been on Fred Wines and Liquor since the early 70s. We throw giveaways back on Father's Day every single year. I had Anthony MSG in the store. I had a couple of people in the store. Shouts to Nickinator. And Knick fans, y'all show me so much love, and I do pods in the store. I'm so sad that I couldn't do a pod in the store today, but this was so important, and I was going through technicalities. I always get words wrong, but thank you so much, man, Ian, for asking me about that, man. I really appreciate it. This is great, man. I really appreciate it. I'm damn near about to tear, but thank you, man. All jokes aside, man, I really do appreciate this, man.
Of course, man. No, it's impressive whenever a business can stand the test of time like that, whatever it is. And look, if the Knicks ever do win a championship, Knicks fans, you know where to get your champagne.
Yes.
Go up
Yes.
to Fred's Wine and Liquor.
Please.
If they get bounced in 4 games by Boston, you need to drown your sorrows in something. Go up to Fred's Wine and Liquor. So go check it out. But Jared, I don't want to get ahead to Boston, but I want to ask you specifically, Mitchell Robinson. What kind of impact do you think he could have against the team that plays the way Boston plays? Negative impact, positive impact? How do you see him impacting that kind of a matchup?
It's a tough matchup for him because the way that both Kristaps Porzingis and Al Horford can space the floor is it's not ideal for the type of defense that you got to play with Mitchell Robinson. I think we've seen that when they've played against Boston when he's out there for a lot of minutes. It's going to be a big challenge for him. The big thing for him would be to have a significant impact on the other end on the offensive glass, which he's done in this series. He's got 3 or more offensive rebounds in all 4 games. He's going to have to make up for some of the weaknesses that he has by protecting the rim at a really high level and then getting on the offensive glass on the other end, because there is going to be a problem with him guarding Kristaps Porzingis or Al Horford. That's just the way it's going to be. I wouldn't be surprised. Like, Boston has played Luke Cornett a bunch in this series against the Magic. I would not be surprised if we didn't see a lot or any of him against the Knicks, just to make it much more difficult on Mitchell Robinson in those minutes coming off the bench.
Imagine that. Luke Cornett, Mitchell Robinson, chess match in the second round of an NBA playoffs. I mean, if you've been watching this team for a certain amount of time, you'll appreciate that matchup. Man, I know Luke Cornett, man, carved himself out a fantastic role on the championship team. So credit to him. But State, Mitchell Robinson, how does he look to you in this series? Does he look like all the way back to you? What are you seeing from him?
Can he get more minutes? Can I beg for more minutes? Thibodeau, I need more minutes from Mitch. I waited all season for Mitch. Mitch is the longest tenured New York Knick. I feel like I grew up with Mitchell Robinson in my 20s. I'm 35 now. I feel like Mitchell Robinson is one of the babies I grew up with, and love his defense. Love the fact that he already deters Cade Cunningham and deters everybody going to the rim. Last game, he had a couple of offensive rebounds that led to threes, that led to the Knicks winning the game. I love Mitchell Robinson, man. At one point in the season, I wanted to trade him, to be honest with you. I apologize for those takes for wanting to trade him. The only reason why I wanted to trade him is because I didn't know. I didn't have hindsight. I was rushing, and the pressure was on, right? The Knicks gave up what they gave up, and Mitchell Robinson was not healthy. But I just didn't understand that, maybe sometimes in life God makes you wait. And, we waited for Mitchell Robinson, and he's done a great job. He's done a great job. He's protecting the rim, regardless of the stats that people, think he don't get. He's not a box score guy. You have to watch the games. That offensive rebound putback, even a lot of games, the offensive rebound putback that got Isaiah Stewart out of the series. Dunk, right? Yeah. Yep. So shouts to Mitch, man. I have nothing but love for Money Mitch. Thibodeau, please run more Mitchell Robinson in Karl-Anthony Towns lineups next game. That's all I got, man.
There are no minute restrictions on Karl-Anthony Towns right now. Asked Tom Thibodeau about that in Detroit. He said nothing, no restrictions, and he likes the way that he's looked. Maybe he gets more minutes, maybe he doesn't. But I give him credit, Mitchell Robinson, for coming back. Another surgery, another long rehab, changing his approach, and coming back ready to play. That's not easy. And I know a lot of people just kind of throw the injury-prone label out there, and it's fair, but you have to think about the human side of it. Guys battle to get back from these injuries, and for him to do that yet again and be here, I give him a lot of credit. On the Isaiah Stewart front, I know that Pistons have listed him as questionable each game. I would be surprised if he comes back game 5. I mean, that injury, it was lingering, I guess, and then he re-aggravated it game 1. He's been out since. I don't know if he's done anything on the floor or not, but after game one, there was a lot of pessimism about his availability for the rest of the series. Hasn't played yet. Be surprised if you see him game 5 do or die for the Pistons. And when you think about that game Tuesday, Jared, is there something you're looking for in particular that will let you know, hey, this will go the Knicks way or won't go the Knicks way? Is there a telltale sign for you looking ahead to Tuesday?
Yeah, the early game offense. Like if you see Towns involved again early on, see him being aggressive, taking shots from the outside, that's a big key.
Yeah. So that's what we're going to keep an eye on early there. And State, what about you? What are you looking at early Tuesday night?
Tuesday. 2 most important factors, Ian, and my brother on the left. Mikal Bridges. You got to start scoring, bro. OG Anunoby, paper man, you got to start scoring, bro. We need you guys for next series. So I'm looking for next game. I'm not looking for Karl-Anthony Towns to score or Jalen Brunson. Get OG and Mikal going and get Deuce McBride going. Because Deuce McBride, he's been a no-show all playoffs. I don't know where Deuce McBride's been. Deuce, where you been at? I need you, bro. We need you, bro. So Deuce, Mikal, OG, that's what I'm looking for next game, Ian. Get those guys going, Brunson, and then get your buckets. I need you to be Jalen Iverson again. Cat, you've been great. I have nothing bad to say. Ian, I have nothing bad to say about Tibbs. I'm in a good mood.
Look, man, I think you've surprised some folks. I could see my friend CP chiming in on your Thibodeau take, and I like it. It's fun, but I just want to say this was pre-planned. Like if the Knicks would have been down 3-1 right now, State still would have been on the show. We still would have been talking about Thibodeau. So this was not. I was not trying to engineer anything here. But I do want to say the scoring. Can you realistically say that Mikal Bridges and OG Anunoby can get it going on offense on a team where Jalen Brunson and Karl-Anthony Towns, it runs through them, and they're at the top in terms of hierarchy? It seems to me like it has to be one or the other on a given night. Can all 4 guys really have it going? I know you saw it a little bit game 3, but Jared, what do you think about that? The way the Knick offense works. Am I wrong? Does it have to be either Anunoby or Bridges offensively on a given night, or can it be both of those and Brunson and Towns?
I don't know that it has to be either or. I think that the way they run their offense makes it more likely that it's either or. We did see in game 3, like you said, both of them, get involved offensively. If the offense was a little bit more democratized, then you could see it more often. But the way their offense works, a lot of times it's going to be Brunson and Towns in the middle of the offense. And when it's not, that's because teams are trying to make them pay for having Josh Hart on the floor. And in those situations, you got to use Hart as the screener. And then it's Brunson and Hart driving a lot of the offense. And that puts OG and Bridges even more to the side. I think on a lot of possessions, they are moving around to try to create some stuff off the ball to move defenders around more often than to get themselves involved offensively. And that helps the offense a lot of times. That's why you saw the offense be so good early in the season. When teams sort of make them pay for Hart having for having Hart on the floor, it's a little bit more difficult to get those guys involved. And I think that was a good point that State brought up about Deuce McBride getting more involved and playing better. It's going to be really important for him in the next series to be more involved and to particularly to get more involved from the outside, taking more shots. Because when the Celtics execute the make you pay for Josh Hart on the floor strategy, it's a lot different than when the Pistons are doing it. Even though the Pistons are a good defensive team, nobody in the league is able to make you pay at a higher level for having a non-shooter on the floor than the Celtics. They are so connected defensively, and they are so practiced at pre-switching stuff when you want to have a different screener involved in the offense. They're going to be able to keep Kristaps Porzingis or Al Horford out of the pick and roll and switch those Brunson Towns pick and rolls or switch the Brunson Hart pick and rolls. It might be a more difficult series for Hart to be heavily involved in than this one has been.
Let's jump out for a second from this series. Let's go to Minnesota, because Julius Randle, I haven't watched every single minute of that series, so I'm curious to hear your thoughts, Jared. But it looked like he is playing really well in the postseason for that club. And they're up 3-1 on the Lakers, seem to be in control there. Jared, your thoughts on Julius and his play in this series?
Good for him, man. I'm happy for him, because one of the things coming into the series that a lot of people thought was the way the Lakers are going to play defense. They're going to put a lot of decision-making into the hands of both Randle and Anthony Edwards, and I think that they have both passed that test with flying colors. Randle has played so much differently than he did in the 2 playoff stints that he had with the Knicks. Some of that, obviously, the first playoff series that they had with the Knicks against the Hawks, there was not much that he could have really done differently given the way the roster was situated at the time. The next series, obviously, he was hurt playing against the Heat in that playoff series. He's been really, really impressive on offense. Not only on offense, though, on defense. He's held his own defensively when asked to guard in space in that series, and that's not something we necessarily saw from him with the Knicks either. I think he's been exactly as good as you've heard that he's been, Ian.
State, as a fan, emotional standpoint, are you happy for Julius Randle when he has success in Minnesota? Are you upset? Is he out of your mind? Is he just not a Knicks? Or you're not thinking about him emotionally? What is your reaction?
I want to give this moment to thank Julius Randle's mom. She was the first person. She's one of the first people that wrote me when my father passed away last year. And Mama Randle, love you, love Randle. At some point, like, the way I was judging him is off of emotion. Shouts to Tony, my OG, speaks to me all the time, and Billy, and my guy D. Ian, you spoke to D. Julius Randle's having a magical playoff run. I've been watching every single playoff game he's been in. I'm very impressed. I nicknamed them civil rights numbers. The only reason why is because his numbers matched a man named Joe Falk, who played in the NBA in the 1950s. And it was bad. But he was hurt. And he is human just like me, Ian. He's human. And since he's human, I got to judge him that way. And this season, he's averaging 22.5 points per game in the playoffs, 5.3 rebounds, and 4.5 assists. And the reason why I said civil rights numbers is because the shooting percentage was so low. He's shooting 47.6% from the field, 45.5% from three. He's finally in a role that's conducive to winning. And that's all I wanted for him. Maybe my feelings got in the way in the past, but shouts to Juju, man. Big dog Juju, have nothing but love for him. I got a hoodie of him in my closet. So, shouts to Juju, man. Love him to death. And without him, we wouldn't be here. Without him and RJ, we would not be here right now. So kudos to Juju, man.
It's true. I got to say, I'm checking Twitter just a little bit as we're talking, State, and some people are throwing out the term company man for you with your Tom Thibodeau analysis. I just want to get your reaction. I mean, I see it a little bit.
The reaction is, I'm loud when the Knicks play bad. Your disrespect always has to be loud as the respect. If he's coaching well, I have nothing but to say but good stuff about it. I got to call what I see with my eyes. I don't like the lot of Knicks fans. What I'm seeing right now is a coach that is adjusted on the fly. He's making Karl-Anthony Towns meet Cade Cunningham at the level. OG Anunoby got Cade Cunningham, guarding him one-on-one. You're forcing everybody else to beat you. You got Mitchell Robinson coming in at the right point in time. You got Josh Hart running point guard at the first quarter, and you making Jalen Brunson be a decoy off ball. I can't say nothing bad about him. I can't. If I do, that's just emotional. It's not fiction. That's not factual. I like to be factual, and I like to tell the honest truth. And he's doing well, man. I have nothing bad to say.
State is calling it like he sees it, critics. So there you go, guys. I want to wrap with one final question here, and it's a pretty easy one. But given what you've seen in this series so far, 4 games against the Pistons, Jared, does this make you feel that a Knick a strong Knicks performance is more likely against the Celtics? Has it changed your view on how they would perform in this potential second round series?
I don't think so. Playoff series from one to the next tend to have very little to do with each other because they're all so dependent on the specific matchups, and especially on what your relative weakness is compared to the other team. Basically, every trip down the floor in the playoffs is you are trying to attack the weakest defender on the other team, and on the other side of the ball, they are trying to exploit the weakest offensive player on your team. And that is just a much different proposition against the Celtics than it is against the Pistons, not only because the Celtics are better at doing those things, because as good as Cade Cunningham is, it's not the same thing as Jason Tatum. And as good as the Pistons are defensively, they were borderline top 10 defense. It's not the same thing as the Celtics defensively. We saw it throughout this season. The Celtics, it's not so much that they have the Knicks number, it's just their – or you know what it is that they have the Knicks number based on the way that most of those games went. And I think that's as much a matchup thing as it is the gap between them in terms of talent, because the Knicks do have talent on the roster. It's not quite as deep as it is, obviously, for the Celtics, but the matchup problems that the Celtics present are much different than the ones that the Pistons present. And I tend not to take too much from one series to the next to begin with, just because the playoffs are so matchup dependent. You're able to game plan for a specific opponent and really hone in on strengths and weaknesses in the playoffs in a way that you aren't during the regular season when you're playing against a different team every other night. And even if the Knicks had played a perfect series against the Pistons, I don't know that I would take too much into it from one series to the next. And even if this series had gone 7 games, I don't know that I would take too much from it in one series to the next.
That makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense to me. Each series different, matchups different in each series. State, how about you? Based on what you've seen, these 4 games against Detroit, as a Knicks fan, are you more optimistic about their chances against Boston? Less optimistic? Where are you?
Ian, I said championship or bust. This team got so much talent. It like whatever I thought in my mind early in the season is finally coming to fruition that this team could get to the finals. I think they could beat Boston, but the way they beat Boston, you can't have OG and Mikal go 4 for 22 at some point in that game. You could get away with that versus the Pistons. You could get away with that. I need Paperman and Mikal Bridges to show up just to offset the Derek White and the Drew Holiday. But Ian, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, please, if you don't mind, brother, because I got a question for you.
Come on.
If Drew Holiday is guarding Karl Anthony Towns, who's the next guy you're expecting to produce that's not Jalen Brunson? And then if you think about that question, I'm thinking OG Anunoby, Mikal Bridges.
Yeah,
those
certainly.
And Deuce.
Certainly. I mean, so you're saying, and not Towns either, right? Because you're saying that.
Yes. Yeah,
okay.
Not Towns either.
Okay. Yeah, it has to be one of those 2 guys, right? It has to be just based on how the Knicks have operated. And I understand also the Deuce concern. Tom Thibodeau has really shrunk his bench and really has relied heavily on the starters recently in this series. And obviously it's produced the desired result. But I agree with you. I mean, McBride was so important to this team in that Philly series, especially early on last year when Jalen Brunson wasn't shooting it well. Miles McBride saved them. So got to get him going to some degree. And obviously against Boston, I mean, if it is, Peyton Pritchard, Miles McBride, if that's a matchup, it's a tough matchup for the Knicks, but, Miles McBride obviously would need to produce there for them to have success. So, but yeah, I do think to answer your question, State, if that's the way the Celtics go, you do have to go and find OG Anunoby or find a Mikal Bridges. And I think, Bridges, we talked about Hart having the ball in his hands, and I think that was taken away a little bit when Jalen Duren was matched up against him. But if Boston does that again, maybe put the ball in Mikal Bridges' hands, even when Jalen Brunson's on the floor, and allow him to try to create a little bit, whether it's for himself or for his teammates. So, yeah, the chess match is going to be fascinating if and when the Knicks and Celtics do get there, which looks like right now they will. But that is going to do it for us, guys. Really appreciate your time and your thoughts on the Knicks. Jared Dubin, last night in basketball, and covers the NFL, CBSSports.com. Be sure to check out his coverage on that basketball site because it's fantastic. State from Harlem, State of the Knicks podcast. Definitely check him out there. And Fred's Wine and Liquor on Malcolm X Boulevard. You need your spirits. Go up there to get them. Really appreciate you guys for joining us, and we will be back sometime later in the playoffs, whether it's in this series or second round. We'll find out Tuesday, but we'll be back with you soon on the Putback. Thanks for joining us.